All right, the next item, we will be discussing the Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence update for the San Mateo County Harbor District. I have several speaker slips. We will have this update, as many of you know, was initiated after the San Mateo County Grand Jury issued a report about the district a year ago and requested or charged LAFCo with doing an update on the district. At this point then, we did hire a consultant to do an independent evaluation, which actually complements past work which was done by staff. So we've gotten a separate view. And so we will have presentation of the report by staff and by the consultant, and then we will take public testimony later. We will hear, the district will be allowed 10 minutes to give their presentation following staff report, and then we will take comments from the public. If you wish to speak, please fill out a speaker slip. We have received any number of letters on this, and we have all read all the letters. So when you're ready to speak, please be prepared to be brief if you submitted something earlier. So we'll go to staff at this point.
Thank you. While we take care of some technical difficulties, I'm going to start with first by introducing Richard Berkson of Economic Planning Systems, who prepared the Municipal Service Review. You have in your packet, you received a staff report dated July 8, 2015, and the public hearing draft Municipal Service Review on the Harbor District, which included comments that had been received on the circulation draft and LAFCo's responses to comments. Since distribution of the agenda packet, we have received extensive comments that have also been provided to you in batches. You received comments on yesterday afternoon, and then you received more comments today at your places. The process for the Municipal Service Review was that there was a circulation draft that was prepared by Richard Berkson that was based on interviews with staff at the Harbor District and on volumes of information, including budgets, audits, reports on infrastructure, and other information. The report got circulated, and the public agency itself commented, as well as many members of the public. The Municipal Service Review is a state-mandated study. It's done on all cities and special districts in the county. It's organized around a codified set of areas and difficult to focus on some of the really very useful provisions of it, which include financial health of an agency, efficiencies of an agency, and including governance alternatives as well, budgets and financial reports, my participation at Harbor District Commission meetings. A Municipal Service Review provides information that Municipal Service Review determinations, but also takes into consideration other factors. And I would say formation was county with previous topic, property tax countywide under a joint powers agreement that will expire in 2026. And the record shows that many other public agencies provide marine operators and search and operate, both public and private agencies operate marinas or harbors in the county, and also other agencies provide search and rescue. So this is a district that is countywide, but it's not the only provider of the service for which it's funded. The sphere of influence district was reviewed last in 2006, and that was the first Municipal Service Review report on the district. That became service reviews became a requirement in 2000. In looking at the district, it made certain findings about the district's debt. Sphere of influence at the time was with the City of South San Francisco, because the City of South San Francisco owns. With the next item on your agenda, the policy statement that the dissolution, it's their recommendation to present the Municipal Service.
Countywide, California operated under a JPA service fees, dredging, maintenance of trails. Go into the about 5 million wide, and it's paid by our tax county and those constituencies. Boating located on the coast, 369 bird launch, commercial fishing, access, trails, and rescue services. So a public fishing pier. This map, which is also in the marine or harbor marina. This review does highlights of each of these. In this for marina usage of the harbor marina is probably more significantly affected by weather conditions and also transit, as you know, to consider. And while there are within the district's immediate vicinity, by these, we feel this provision really is not applicable. And as well as a balance the budget due to capital improvements, those is slightly over. That is operating costs of the district by that 3.0 annual debt payment. That is why countywide property cash balance 3.4 million debt service really could be mentioned that the district year 20, although with reserve free up funds currently required for debt service that could be used for capital improvements. Limited opportunities for shared facilities were identified. The district has recently providing an interim general administrative services. The district is exploring other options, in particular information technology or through other public possibilities of sharing service responsibility for the west areas to the county or ability. The district does maintain does require, if it's to meet, has had for many years standing and ad hoc configurated, and they are meeting. The meetings are video record further information. For example, many of those policies, as indicated further about. So it's been a significant amount of discord on the board in past years and between the board and management, which have impaired daily operations as well as long-term planning and the ability to attract and retain key personnel. Another point, Martha mentioned this in her introduction, the Harbor Commission and County of San Mateo and also the City of South San Francisco. The district has, I mentioned, and is taking steps in efforts to address a number of governance and operational issues, and we've listed a few here. They're also described in the report. Recently moved to new office space to lower costs. They sold off some surplus property, and as I mentioned, they are considering options for outsourcing of various services, including leasing services, and I mentioned they have hired an interim general manager, and they are in the process of searching for a permanent general manager. However, staff turnover that they've experienced in the past and board conflicts have slowed their progress. They did recently reorganize their board organization, and they're moving ahead now. So there are positive prospects. There's also a concern that's been expressed, the local enterprise operation, local representation, but as I mentioned previously, there is a constituency that is voting for the board currently and that is paying taxes to help support these operations. Unfortunately, in the course of our work, their current accounting system does not enable tracking of enterprise versus non-enterprise functions. So it is difficult to really clarify how much of their operations and costs might. I know the district and its reliance on property enhancements, review of their fees and charges and so forth, as well as cost savings in order to do that. And of course, most significantly is they do have, as I said, significant deferred capital improvements that are required, which certainly in the near term is most likely going to require all of their current revenues. The MSR includes specific recommendations to the district for actions that are clearly essential and important at this point. And that's what is organized here under the determinations categories. These are different from the findings that usually highlights a very systematic manner. They have made substantial to resulted in will be extremely valuable to help remedy assessing personnel help. Certainly further work needs to be done there of providing. We also, and the county, should continue to confer and research a special issues and financial importance of distinguishing interval for planning. At this point, I'd like the SOI.
Yes, so the sphere of influence section of the report relies in part on the municipal service review and also addresses what has been a just long-standing overlapping condition of overlapping boundaries for governance and service responsibility. And I want to emphasize, in particular based on many of the comments that have been received, that the sphere of influence is not based on the individuals that are elected to a board or the individuals that are appointed as management to a district. If that were the case, we might be changing spheres of influence a lot because elections change the composition of boards. The sphere recognizes the potential economies of scale and operational efficiencies that could be created and by eliminating duplicated administration and governing board activities. And the sphere also addresses this lack of nexus between county-wide boundaries that were established in 1933, which no longer really have a bearing on the location of the services that are provided. I want to speak for a minute to the issue of enterprise versus non-enterprise, because the district has indicated that they're going to convert to a cost accounting system that will be able to help them capture what is the cost of providing the enterprise services, which are the services that lend themselves to a fee. So those would be in particular the leasing of the buildings that the district owns, the rental space for boat space at the district. Anything that there's an actual way to charge a fee for the non-enterprise activities of the district include search and rescue, include passive recreation, and include also some of the fees I should have added to include those related to the actual sphere determinations are found in the report on pages 21 and 22, and these summarize them, that there's a wide range of land use, including residential, commercial, industrial, open space, agricultural, etc. The land use really typically pertains more to agencies that are municipal service providers in the area of sewer and water or fire police. The need for the public services, the report acknowledges that there is a need for continued services provided by the district, including search and rescue and the other operation activities by the district. The capacity of facilities and service adequacy, here we identify the occupancy levels of the two facilities operated by the district. The report itself also addresses, under this area in the service review, the issues related to the condition of facilities. The determination for social or economic communities of interest, Richard touched on this a little bit. The district boundaries are coterminous with the county, so there's the county voter constituency and property taxpayer constituency. But the facilities operated by the district represent two different communities of interest that actually have multiple constituencies within. I have some remarks before I make my recommendation. This long-standing sphere of the district is really based on the overlapping service responsibility and the boundaries that were established prior to major development taking place in the county and prior to other operators taking on marine and harbor responsibilities. The boundaries could be defined as artificial or obsolete based on present day, and they resulted in the district getting the countywide property tax that doesn't have any nexus to the services that are provided. or has very limited nexus. In regard to the comments that were received thus far, the staff report responds to the Harbor District assertions about conclusions about savings that could result from dissolution, intended purpose of property tax, provisions in the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act that the district believes limits the content of the municipal service review, and legal issues that would need to be studied prior to initiating a dissolution proposal, and also the application of the California Environmental Quality Act to a district dissolution. And the one of the statements is that a district dissolution would require something in the range of either an environmental study of a mitigated negative declaration or an EIR. And there is a CEQA exemption that says that you're not. We just used it for Los Troncos, that exempts projects in which you're not changing the boundaries and service area where previously provided services were provided. So in this instance, since the district's boundaries are countywide, it would be one thing if the district were expanding. We had to do a mitigated neg deck when the mosquito abatement district expanded, but if you're not expanding the boundaries, the CEQA exemption would apply. And the staff report has our staff responses to the other issues that were raised by the district. The key themes and comments include giving the current board time to make improvements and efficiencies, opposition to dissolution from coastside commenters who don't want to lose local control, and the importance of Pillar Point to the coastside community and the fishing economy, and the visitor serving economy. In regard to allowing time for the current board, the SPHERE recommendation, as I said, is not based on individuals elected to a board or to the management. In regard to the desire for local control, this was touched on in the presentation. That sentiment discounts the fact that the district is funded by countywide taxpayers that have their own, I think, right to participate in the governance of the district. And I would also note that there's a very local politics associated with Pillar Point Harbor and the Harbor Commission, oversight in part due to the importance of Pillar Point Harbor to that community, and in part due to the election resulting in 4 harbor commissioners out of 5 being coastside residents. Nonetheless, the Harbor Commission is responsible for countywide revenue and administering the JPA at Oyster Point. True local control would mean redrawing the boundaries of the district to align with communities most affected and that most benefit from the Harbor District's services. Regarding the importance of the 2 facilities operated by the district, dissolution, as I said, does not contemplate discontinuance of service. In fact, a LAFCo application and plan for service would need to clearly stipulate level of service, financing, rates, and how the successor would address deferred maintenance and capital improvements cited in the report. With that, I'd like to make my recommendation that you open the public hearing and receive public comment. And I'd like to see this slide stay up so that it's here for you when it's time to take action, if you so choose. And that would be by motion making a CEQA finding, adopting and accepting the municipal service review report and sphere of influence report and the executive officer's report and the attachments. And then by motion, adopting the municipal service review determinations, and by resolution, adopting the sphere of influence, which would be actually no change in the status of the district. It would be reaffirming a long-standing sphere of influence that the district could be dissolved. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there questions by the members of the commission? Yes, where's the
question? Actually, he just got it looks like it's really kind of an anachronism. In 1933, the United population probably was about 5% of what it is today, so the county government didn't have much in the way of reach. But in response to one of your comments about redrawing the district lines, is it really possible for the boundaries of the district to really better represent the constituency that it serves? Like, for example, the people in East Palo Alto, Daly City, Belmont, they really don't get anything out of this. It's really primarily a coastside and South San Francisco benefit. Could the district boundaries be redrawn to pull property tax only from those areas?
Yes, there's a process in the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act for detachments from a district, and that could be initiated by either any agency that includes the territory, so a city could apply to detach, or the district itself, if it got to a point where it was less reliant on the property tax, could also apply to LAFCo to detached territory. But as noted in the report, where the district is right now, it would not be able to function and implement maintenance and capital improvement projects that are much needed. So that would be something that would be dependent upon the district being less reliant on property tax.
I'm also going to point out that this actually sort of watched this district for a long time. And I know, give you one example, even past boards, commissioners have done things that actually I really kind of scratch my head and wonder about. For example, they bought Romeo Pier as an asset. In fact, it's a liability. So this is, the management of this has not been great for decades. The other thing I noticed is that in the report indicates that almost 50% of the people who have berths out there are county residents. Why would we want to can we charge them more? Why would we want to subsidize that? Is that possible to have a differential rate?
That's a question that I would defer to the district on. There are ways that public agencies like cities charge non-resident rates for recreation.
Maybe one of them speaks to answer that. You indicated that there are 14 harbor districts in the state. Are any of them receive taxes from a countywide?
There are, out of the 14, there are 2 districts that are countywide. One is actually a harbor resource conservation and something else district. And so we go in and look at each of the other 13 agencies. But there are 2 that are countywide. I'm not sure proportionally how much property tax they get in comparison.
No other questions?
All right, any other questions? Joshua?
Thank you very much. I just had a question. The recommendations that are in the report, are they basically all being followed or attempting to be followed by the commission right now?
Yes, I believe that they do have plans to implement. In some cases, they are in the process of trying to implement recommendations that are in the report. I can't tell you about the timeline for actual implementation.
And then just a quick question on the reserves. You're talking about other similar harbor districts. Is the size of the reserves comparable or not?
Well, the overall size of the reserves do appear to be generally adequate relative to their budget, I believe. But the other issue, of course, are the significant deferred maintenance and capital needs that they're facing. So I believe that they clearly don't have sufficient money either in reserves or cash flow to deal with those problems. But generally speaking, their overall total reserves and allocations appear to be adequate.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I actually have a question, sort of following up on something Don said, where, you know, the district took over a pier that really was a liability more than an asset. And I also noticed in here that they are doing some work on some sand on some of the beaches there. Where did they get the authority for something like that? It seems like that's sort of authority creep, if you call it. It seems like it's out of sort of what their role really is as it relates to marinas and boating and berths and things like that.
I believe when the district speaks, their attorney is going to be presenting for them. The enabling legislation for the Harbor District is written in a fairly broad manner. And so I believe that they have the authority to enter into joint powers agreements with other agencies with similar powers. And I believe that they've entered into that endeavor pursuant to the authority of the code.
It just sort of surprised me when you have such deferred maintenance, why would you continue to take on things that you can't take care of business at home? It's just, it seems a little odd to me.
Can I answer a little bit of that? I know a little bit about the Harbor District, having worked with some of the commissioners. I know they have a subcommittee and some of my staff have worked with it. The fact is that it's a long, and I'm not going to bore everybody with it, but sand gets trapped in the harbor because of the breakwater, and there's about 250,000 cubic yards of sand it's a trap. And so what happens is that as it gets more and more sand, it's more and more difficult for boats to traverse and actually use the harbor. So they have to dredge to some extent. So, but again, they probably need to work with the county, the Corps of Engineers to be able to accomplish that.
Thank you. Other commissioner questions? Joshua?
Yes, I had one more thing I wanted to ask about the efficiencies and cost savings. So, I understand that there's not a lot of efficiencies and cost savings because the election costs will get redistributed. I know the Harbor Commission has compensation, but I believe they're reducing that, if I remember reading that. And then the idea of, staffing, of course, it's hard to say exactly what staffing needs would be in the event of disillusion going down that route. So I was wondering if you could comment a little bit on that.
Yeah, we probably both have comments. The one response that's in the staff report about the election cost is that the election costs countywide are shared by the number of agencies that participate in elections. And so what would happen in a dissolution is the cost to the users of the marina facilities would not have to figure in the cost of an election for a separate board because there would be a board of supervisors elected. So the taxpayers in general would still collectively, and some areas where you have lots of special districts in a city, if you wanted to, you could add up all your election costs, and your election costs are more than somebody who lives in a full service city where they only elect county supervisor, a few special regional districts, etc. The report acknowledges that more work needs to be done to do a feasibility study and calculate what potential savings would be. One of the things that I would emphasize is that it would be something that would be in the long term. I think initially, if you compared the operation of successor agencies in the short term, they would start taking care of deferred maintenance and capital improvements that are not reflected in the district's budget. So it would appear to be more expensive. I don't know if you have anything to add, Richard.
Just a few things to add. We mentioned that during any dissolution transition period, there would be additional costs in the short term associated with that transition of responsibilities. Although in reviewing their budget, we do believe that there are potential cost savings that could occur from eliminating the separate commission. Their expenditures alone could be several $100,000, and also various administrative costs, which to some degree could be provided by existing staff at the county or the city of San Francisco. So as Martha said, that would have to be evaluated in much greater detail, but we do think there is a reasonable expectation that there could be costs and would be cost savings.
Am I correct, did I read though that the commission did decide to reduce their compensation as far as their medical? Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, and they are taking other steps as well to achieve cost savings, although there are still substantial expenditures for a range of administrative, technical, consulting, legal, and other costs as well, in addition to those that you mentioned, where they have achieved some savings.
Thank you. Yes,
Just one other question, if you could address the capital improvement program. What I'm reading here is that they've got a draft strategic business plan and they have set priorities, but instead of taking the highest priorities, they're addressing the lower priorities. And it seemed counterintuitive to me. Am I reading that correctly?
Well, I think the district could address that better. I think that is to some extent an issue that exists because they haven't completed that strategic business plan, number one. Number two, as we point out in the report, they don't have a good system for accounting and planning their CIP expenditures or a set of policies to help them establish how are they going to spend money, what are their priorities, and so forth. So I agree with that, and perhaps the district might want to address that as well. And also I think the issue that they have had staff turnover has also slowed the process of implementing important capital improvements as well, or even finalizing the strategic plan that I believe has been held up for some time as well. So it is a combination of factors that probably account for what you described.
I guess my real concern there is the whole safety issue, and when things get postponed and they go at the bottom of the barrel, you know, that's when you run into additional liability issues. It just seemed like it's kind of backwards to me. But and you know, in just sort of looking at some of these things, you know, that overlap in responsibilities, you know, I do know that a lot of what the county does, we also have Coyote Point, and we also have the sheriff that does search and rescue. So I mean, you know, we do a lot of the same services that get provided, and I do get concerned about that overlap in responsibility and the fact that we're a smaller area of the county, so concerned.
From the district and from the public. We'll give the district 10 minutes. And then following that, I have 8 speaker slips, and you will be limited to 2 minutes each. I noticed the names on many of the individual speakers are many who have already submitted letters. So just when you think about it to that point. So will you introduce yourself, please, and you can see 10 minutes, right?
Thank you. Is this on? Great. My name is Stephen Miller. I'm from the law firm of Hanson Bridget in San Francisco, and we serve as general counsel to the San Mateo County Harbor District. I'm joined at the podium by the president of the board of Harbor Commissioners, Tom Matoush. Thanks very much for the opportunity to address you. Thank you to Martha and to Mr. Bergson for their diligent and hard work in preparing the municipal services review and sphere of influence determination before you. We have presented and provided some considerable and lengthy written comments, which we will not go into again. We're really here today to urge the commission and make a relatively small and simple request to urge you that should you today vote to reaffirm the district's sphere of influence, you do so without encouraging or setting a specific timetable for implementation of any resulting dissolution action. We believe that the district has already embarked on a path forward that makes initiation of a dissolution proceedings unwise at this time. That's not to minimize the seriousness of the predicament that the district finds itself in, and the district understands that fully, but the district's commission is united and unanimous in its opposition to any dissolution at this time. The district believes to the contrary, that it can fulfill the purpose for which it was created, it can improve its organization and its financial condition, and can operate effectively and efficiently, as do many other agencies throughout the county operating under a zero sphere. And the report you've already heard today and the executive officer's report on page 14 provides a list of just some of the actions the district has already taken to improve its financial resources and its ability to fund those necessary improvements. And the district has even taken more actions in support of the recommendations of the MSR, even since the executive officer's report was published just a week ago. And I think that this list and the report is in some respects hard evidence that a transition is already underway at a rapid pace, especially since the district now has a really impressive new board president. And with that, I would like to turn the microphone over to President Matoush, who's going to share with you his vision for the future of the district, and in particular, some short-term action plans that he has in light of the potential commission action today. I'll be here, of course, to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha, commissioners, and LAFCo staff. The district asking our board to provide additional resources to assure expedient implementation, changing scope of the 14-15 independent audit to include and where our tax dollars are going. We've begun outsourcing key tasks such as information technologies, and this will continue. We're using a consultant for profiling, and right at the present time, we have 34 top-notch candidates for the general manager position. This includes an applicant from Qatar, France, and Mexico. We have whittled this down to extremely talented and qualified professionals. We will improve the management of our valuable real estate assets. The board will consider outsourcing property management services as part of this process and will implement improved data systems in-house out of the Department of Waterways loan and facilitate and speed up lease processes. As long as we have this loan, we cannot go out and offer members of the public that want to lease or take over a property without prior boating and waterways approval. Since they were taken over by parks, this is a 4 to 6 week process just to get them to accept what we send in. We will adopt a schedule of rates and fees and associated policies after careful analysis and order. The importance of our employees, but also the financial realities facing the district and comparable agreements in the area. I can tell you, labor negotiations are on now. We will seek for the first time and try and take advantage of available grant opportunities and seek to leverage partnerships that the district has not sought to date. We will improve the operating efficiencies of a number of small but significant ways. For instance, last night we signed a contract with OpenGov to increase our transparent reporting of our financial picture. Any of you will be able to go on and see how and where we're spending our money. As Richard mentioned somewhat, prior management and board commissions did not follow committee procedures to accomplish vital with our staff and council. The Administrative Office Committee completed the move to save the district money. The Water Quality and Public Safety Committee has met several times engaging the public in important issues. The Executive Search Committee is contacting the 8 finalists this week for interviews for the general manager position. Tonight's board meeting will include discussions regarding the consultants on the strategic business plan. Understand why that plan was halted. The Harbor District has a history of paying consultants huge fees and never implementing those programs. I heard previously, yes, we ended commissioner benefit packages with the end of this term. I ask you, how transparent was it to support former commissioners who gave the general manager a pass on drug testing, the requirement to increase berth occupancy at Oyster Point, to pass on developing and obtaining simultaneously by work done? For example, how will dissolution or impending dissolution affect our ability for a first-class general manager? 2 more points. I understand that LAFCo will no doubt reaffirm the district's zero sphere of influence, but it can do so in a number of ways. We urge it be done in such a manner that it does not direct or even encourage any further action at this time. Come back in a year and see if I've been blowing smoke or whether we have taken action on these items. Only then should an entity, whether it be LAFCo or the county or any other potential successor agency, begin considering whether any further analysis of the district is necessary. I welcome an MSR in 2 years to see how we're doing. Please take time to look at the past 2 MSR responses from the district to LAFCo.
and many of their questions and comments were incorporated into the report, the corrections, technical corrections. Next, we'll hear from the public, and I said we have 8 speaker slips. We'd like you to keep it under 2 minutes. I will let you know. There's a timer over there. Many of you have sent in letters, so we'd like you to be brief. I will assure you that all of us have read all of your letters. So if you wish to just highlight your concerns, we'd really appreciate that. So the first speaker is Robert Reichel, and he will be followed by Peter Yatrakis. All right,
I'm
2
Robert
minutes.
Rico from San Bruno, and I'm here just representing myself. Continue to make recommended and needed changes. With these changes, everyone wins. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your written copy of your remarks. Next speaker is Peter Yatrakis, followed by, we already had Stephen Miller, okay. Followed by John.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Thank you.
I provided you a written document, but to update my disclosures, I'm no longer the chair of the City of San Mateo Senior Citizens Commission. I'm its past chair as a result of a meeting Monday. Speaking today in support of the current reorganized San Mateo Harbor District with high expectation that it will continue to meet the needs of the citizens of San Mateo County. I've read all the responses on the website, and it appears that I'm not alone in strongly suggesting the LAFCo provide the newly elected president and new commission the opportunity to make changes and enhance the services to the citizens that use the harbor and benefit from them. Dissolution of the district is not an option, in my opinion, and should be taken off the table. If it is to be dissolved, it should be at the pleasure of the county voters, not the appointed commissioners of this body. I'm confident that Mr. Matoush, with his experience and leadership and a newly reorganized commission, will be able to get the district back on course. Please give them the opportunity to make the changes and build on the infrastructure that's in place today. Doing otherwise invites the potential of unintended consequences. Thank you, Commissioners, for considering my remarks and my plea to allow the current reorganized commission to continue to work out the problems identified by you and the grand jury. I know that even in the short period that Tom Matoush has been president, changes have been implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. John Ulam, followed by James Leeton. 2 minutes.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Quick things. Just I mentioned about the sand. Why the district might be involved in that. The big reason for that sand being involved, the district and the county and everybody, is that sand is what should be in front of Highway 1 right now. And you're one big storm away from losing Highway 1. So this should have been dropped a long time ago. No one else jumped it. The Harbor District's taking the lead on it. Doesn't get fixed, it's going to be a huge problem. Second thing you mentioned, Romeo Pier. Romeo Pier was purchased back in the 90s. I believe it was 90s, might be a little. And that was purchased at the, spearheaded by all support status quo that's been going on for 20 years. So I hope you'll take that into consideration. If there is a commission, I am no fan of how the commission is run. I have been a critic for 2 years, and I've sent you all emails showing what's been going on, showing you a video, showing you video after the menu endorsed, stopped videotaping the meeting. They didn't want it out there anymore. So I think you should all consider who's better to run the commission. I don't think the county's the answer, but South San Francisco should be allowed to have opium.
Thank you. And thank you for your video of this meeting. Next is James Leehan? Leehan. Oh, James Leehan. Yes, we do.
Most of the people I know have been to Pillar Point Harbor. They have not been to county taxpayer-paid public resources like Edgewood Park, San Bruno Mountain. They recognize Pillar Point more. It's a public resource, and that has there's no cognitive dissonance between that and local control. Obviously, the folks who live near Pillar Point Harbor, who live near this place that is such an economic engine for the coast side, should have a say, an opportunity at least, throughout large elections to have a deeper say in how this special district is run. And they're engaged in it, and that's why you see 4 coastside residents elected. Erickson was able to get videos of all your meetings. And my concern is that with leadership on the commission like that now, that the commission will be dissolved. We need leadership like that, and we have it now.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Catherine Slater-Carter, followed by Sabrina Brennan.
Thank you, Commissioners. I did send a letter. I'm not repeating it. I do support all of the previous comments and the letters in the packets in support of the district. This is a case, in fact, of the public democracy actually correcting a failing district. And all of the recommendations made by the grand jury and in the MSR are about the previous boards and the previous staff and the previous administration. I think this district needs time to breathe, and the public and the county needs to give democracy a chance to work. In fact, the district, the Harbor District is a whole that is much greater than the sum of its parts. And to divide those parts up into pieces and distribute them throughout the county will lose much of what creates a very fine Harbor District. I live in an unincorporated area. I would be happy to talk to you, both of the members of the Board of Supervisors here, about what has been dropped in this fine county. In fact, I have in the past, and would be happy to using here in reference to that article in the county. Thank you.
Next speaker, Sabrina Brennan, followed by Leonard Warren.
That no one has gotten to yet, if that's possible. Otherwise, I need to get into the comments. The amount of staff time spent on public records requests by making the district's budgets and annual audits accessible online to everyone. This is one of the many needed improvements the board will be rolling out this year. With regard to the governance options included in the MSR, I would like to note that the district should consider terminating the JPA with the City of South San Francisco. The JPA ends in 11 years, and Oyster Point Marina is a greater burden on the district's resources due to an average 60% slip occupancy rate, whereas we have a rate of about 90 to 100% at The city of South San Francisco could consider assuming full management responsibilities of their marina and build additional commercial lease space to generate revenue, begin needed infrastructure improvements, and expand recreational opportunities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Next speaker is Leonard Warren, followed by Michael Stogner.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Leonard Warren. Once again, I came here expecting to not make any comments, but on your earlier assurance that you've read all the submitted comments, I won't repeat mine. I just wanted to mention that my understanding for the justification for the Harbor District purchasing Romeo Pier was to get credit against a new pier because it's virtually impossible these days to get a permit to build a new pier. So the thinking back then, I've been told, was that they could buy that, and then when they are ready to build a new pier, they could demolish that and say, okay, we're just replacing a pier with another pier. Unfortunately, I see that the Commissioner Tissier has left because she was the one that raised that issue, so if you could pass that on to her. The other comment, and James, I forgot his last name, mentioned this. The Pillar Point Harbor is effectively a county park, even though it's not run by the county, it's run by a special district. It has all the same characteristics of a county park. It's paid for by everybody in the county. Everybody in the county enjoys it. The coast side is basically the playground for the whole county. And so it is in fact reasonable for people in the whole county to pay for Pillar Point in particular. I'm not going to comment at all on Oyster Point, but you can refer to my comments in my submitted letter. And finally, I'll just mention that I agree with the comments you just heard from Catherine Slater-Gardner. Thank you.
Next speaker, Mike, in 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah, okay. The beeper will let you know. Yeah.
Start the beeper now. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Stogner. I'm from San Carlos, California. And my position is to LAFCo, please grant these ladies and gentlemen 1 year that they're requesting. Let them do their job. It's what the public has asked for. Richard made a comment regarding transparency and financial statements and things of that nature. And I just had to, think about the fact that have you compared San Mateo County's website and their financial statements, and then also have you compared South San Francisco's website to see if either one of those would be an improvement. And the reason I bring that up is there was a really nice reporter from the Half Moon Bay Review named Mark Nowak that wrote an article called "It Shouldn't Be This Hard to Find Out How Your Money is Spent." And what he was talking about was he was trying to access San Mateo County's website to find out how Measure A funds were spent. So my position is this: if either San Mateo County, whether it's the supervisors or any other district, leadership, is better than this board, that's fine. I don't believe we have that at this moment. So I would just ask, have some patience, let these people do their job, and let the taxpayers get their money's worth. Thank you.
Thank you. The final speaker is Rich Landy.
Good afternoon. My name is Rich Landy. I'm in Palomar Park, unincorporated area. Just to briefly let you know, my background is public works for 50 years. So some of the comments that were made regarding districts. Now the county has a number of sanitary districts that are dependent sanitary districts, and they were sued by baykeepers and other agencies over a couple million dollars because they deferred all their sewer maintenance. They never did. So I don't think you should put a lot of weight to some of your decisions on deferred maintenance. And I commend the other speakers that brought up a lot of points I was going to bring up, and I know I have 2 minutes, but I do have one question for the County Board of Supervisors. If in fact it is dissolved, I would expect the County Board of Supervisors, since LAFCo always wants transparency, that they would have to.
Shall we close the public hearing? Aye. Aye. Public hearing is closed. Does staff care to make any other comments at this point? What we have on the list is 4 potential motions, correct? There's a CEQA finding, adoption of the municipal service report, and the executive officer report. That's item 2. 3.
These are counties, and at least the first one.
All right, so the first item is making the findings according to the California Environmental Quality Act, that this is, what is the motion? That this action that we are taking is exempt from CEQA based on the CEQA regulations 15061B3. That's the motion. Yeah, all right.
I'm sorry.
Are you
One
good?
quick question.
On this issue, do you want to wait till we get to other motions, or?
Well, just have to do with public comment.
All right, well, we could make a determination that whatever we're going to do is exempt, so why don't we go with this motion? On this issue?
On the CEQA.
Oh, all right, fine.
It's my understanding from the earlier conversation on Los Troncos district that the CEQA exemption assumes that absolutely no services, facilities, or anything else is going to change in the process. Is that true? Because my concern is that I don't know at this point. I cannot vote that nothing's going to change at this point.
I actually misspoke about the reference to CEQA as it relates to a municipal service review versus a dissolution. I apologize. Long day. The CEQA finding is actually that there is no organizational change, and this is a study, and it's under CEQA, it's a project that's not subject to CEQA. If there were a future application, which is addressed in the response to the Harbor District, there's a different CEQA exemption there. Projects that get undertaken, for example, if you have a capital project, that might trigger CEQA, and that would be, the lead agency would be the agency undertaking that. On an applicable CEQA exemption, or they would need to do an initial study and an environmental document that goes with that. So I apologize that I was not more clear about that.
Right. Any other questions on the motion? The motion is to find that this action we are taking today is exempt from CEQA. It's been moved and seconded. Do we need a roll call on this? Yes. Yes, on the motion. Secretary, call the roll.
Commissioner Cosgrove?
Aye.
Commissioner Horsley?
Aye.
Commissioner Lohman? Commissioner
Did you say aye?
That was an aye.
Commissioner Tissier?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Neill?
Yes.
And Chair Craig?
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. The next item is number 3 on our list. Commissioner Cosgrove had a question.
Thank you. Just the Harbor Commission, when they spoke, mentioned that they, encourage this review, and then they mentioned about a timeline, though, that they would not like to see a specific timeline. Am I missing something with that?
There were 2 comments from the Harbor District. One is that they urged the commission to, if reaffirming the sphere of influence, that they not assign a timeline to it, to implementation of it. And the other was they encouraged the municipal service review in 2 years. So those were the 2 timeframes they mentioned.
Yeah, and we're not.
As I understand it, we are not taking any action at this point to move towards dissolution. That's not the recommendation of staff. We would be reaffirming a 0 sphere of influence, which is currently in place. If they wish us to review an MSR, that would be up to our schedule and budget. Normally, we wouldn't need to do that quickly, but maybe we would like to do that.
Through the chair, just to clarify for the district, there is no recommendation about a timeline to implement the sphere of influence. The commission
until now, and unless somebody else moves forward, either the county or some other agency or the district itself, the recommendation stands, and there's nobody moving forward to initiate dissolution. I mean, that is what we ended up doing with the Los Trancos Water District, but their district actually initiated them. So at this point, we are talking primarily about reviewing what the district status is and making determinations, and the recommendation of staff is to reaffirm the zero sphere of influence, which means they can't annex more, so. Any other questions?
No, through the chair, I would make a motion to accept the municipal service review sphere of influence report dated July 8, 2015, executive officers report dated July 18, 2015, and all written comments and attachments contained in Exhibit A.
Second, moved by Horsley, seconded by Tissier. Any discussion on the motion? Yes.
Again, all the public comments, including all the letters and support from the Chamber of Commerce and the seafood marketing groups, all are against this process of affirming the dissolving. If we say yes to this motion, does that mean we agree with the process to the recommendation to dissolve the harbor district? That's my big question, because I do not agree with that. I have tons of comments I'd like to make about that.
Yes.
So I guess not
Through the
what are we
chair,
voting
this
on?
specifically, you're being asked to accept the municipal service review and the staff report, and accept or acknowledge the public comments that were attached and included with the report. It is not an action related to the sphere of influence. It is an action related, well, it is the study itself, but it's not an action on the sphere recommendation. It's an action on the documents that were prepared for this meeting.
As to their accuracy.
At what point of these motions will we discuss our thoughts on the dissolution of the district?
I would say the sphere of influence, or I guess would that be the point with, under the determinations?
They get accent. So I'm totally against that idea that only the coast side and South San Francisco benefit from this. Several documents, including the newspaper articles quoting County Manager John Maltby, talk about reports have to do, studies have to occur. The county will not assume anything until massive studies occur and they decide where they're going to do it. In the Los Trancos case, which was mentioned earlier, all these concerns were brought up, all the studies were done. Everybody agreed, here's the solution for this problem, here's the solution for that problem. Everything was resolved. I don't want to move forward with the recommendation to dissolve when none of these studies have been completed yet. My thought is that whether the county's going to do them or whoever's going to do them, I don't want to vote on a dissolution until we have solutions. What's going to happen with $17 million? Where it's not going to disappear. How are we going to address all these problems? A lot of the administrative problems, accounting problems are now being addressed by the current board. My concern is these big items like, okay, now we're talking $17 million of debt. Whether the county assumes it or whether the harbor district keeps it, we need a solution. What's going to happen? In 5 years, the debt reduction payments are going to disappear, so the harbor district is going to have some more money. Will that solve the problem? I don't know. But I'd like to see all those answers before I make any recommendation on a dissolution.
All right. Commissioner Tissier?
I don't disagree with you. I think if you saw the letter from John Maltby in here, the county would want to take a look and do an analysis before they'd even consider it. So, I mean, I think you're in the right queue in that. I think here, what I see us doing today is just readopting what currently exists on the books today. And if the Board of Supervisors could ask for that analysis and want to do that in order to determine if we'd ever want to do that. But that's a whole different step, unless more, maybe I incorrect.
Well, what I'd like to clarify is that recommendation number 5 is where the district, the commission is recommended to adopt a sphere of influence, reaffirming the sphere of influence of the Harbor District. This recommendation is that the commission accept the report that's been provided to you, accept the staff report, and accept the public comments, i.e. getting them into the record. This is not, and even the recommendation of reaffirming the sphere of influence is not dissolving the district. The proposal that came to you today from Los Troncos County Water District, that was a district that had a dissolution sphere of influence for decades. The proposal that came was all the fiscal analysis that Mr. Maltby talks about and that everybody else talks about. That proposal was the product of the analysis that followed the sphere of, that was consistent with the sphere of influence. So this item right here is not a recommendation, is not part of the recommendation about dissolving the district.
Okay, good. That is my concern, is that the MS
But the other is that it would be possible to vote in favor of accepting a report and vote against the recommendation on the sphere.
that's what I would like. That comes in at 5, okay?
Yeah, and I think also the issue in sequence was that both the county and the and our commission were addressed by the grand jury to look at this. And the county, it sort of has to come in sequence. We had to look at it first before the county would do anything. If we make a different determination, then the county may not do anything anyway. I mean, I don't know. But they couldn't move ahead without us first making the finding, because that's our role in terms of governmental organization. And we are basically addressing an existing zero sphere that has been there since 1977. Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. Joshua. Oh, what? Go ahead.
No, I guess I just wanted to thank you. I think that is good discussion, because it is clarifying what we're doing, and I'm sort of along the same lines, is that we're reaffirming what's already been there, and I'm very heartened by what I hear from the district, from the Harbor Commission, and very hopeful that there will be a lot of improvements going forward. And if there are improvements that go forward, I think that that will be a very good thing. So, it's good to clarify what we're doing here, what I'm doing here as a commissioner, just reaffirming what's already been done.
Second it?
All right.
No, this one is by motion. This is number 4, a recommended action.
Oh, sorry, thank you. This is Exhibit B. All right, okay. So this is by motion. We are adopting the municipal service review determination set forth in Exhibit B, which is attached and hereby incorporated by reference. Is there discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Oh, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Cosgrove?
Aye.
Commissioner Horsley?
Aye.
Commissioner Lohman?
Aye.
Commissioner TCA?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Neill?
Aye.
Chair Craig?
Aye.
Okay, the last and the most controversial.
Yes, right.
Is to make a motion that the commission adopt the sphere of influence determination set forth in Exhibit C and reaffirms the existing zero sphere of influence for San Mateo County Harbor District.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion by the commission? Go ahead. Thank you.
I do have a question. I think it's, is it possible for us to adopt a resolution that says, okay, we give you a year to prove what you're doing is actually happening, and then we look at it in a year, or would be a whole nother MSR and everything else?
And so chooses, it's brought back in a year.
was. We asked them to come back in a year.
I kind of hate to,
Has come back, then could we, or would we want for consideration or not?
You can direct staff to work into your budget a study that would be not as intensive as this, and a agendizing and going through the process of reviewing the sphere at any time.
I know also what we did with this mosquito abatement is we requested them to come back. We requested a follow-up when we failed, when we chose not to make a motion to dissolve the district, then they came back with a report, as I remember.
Yes, that's correct. So you could also, separate from this action, request periodic updates from the district on their progress.
And if I might just provide the board with a little distinction, there is no motion by the board, by the commission to dissolve the district. So I think it's a very important distinction. This is just adopting the sphere of influence for dissolution. There needs to be a completely separate action to actually dissolve a district. And I think that's a very important distinction given the comments in the room today.
Can I make a comment if I will? I think what would be important for this board, I mean, I think we should adopt this resolution, but I do think we should have periodic reviews and have them come back and report. I mean, what was told today is that they're going to do X, Y, Z, and if that's what they're going to do and it improves the situation, that's good. If in 6 months it's in the same turmoil it was in the last 6 months, then I think there's a bigger issue there. So I think it's incumbent upon them. I don't think we need to do another study. I think it would be good to have them come back and report back to us and say, here's what we've done since we were last here. Maybe it's a year or 6 months, but I think that's what I'd like to see more so than have our staff have to go do another review like this. I think if they can do all the things they said, it'd be fantastic.
Let me make a suggestion that, first of all, I did make the motion, but well, because it's in my district, let me work with them and come up with a list of priorities that they have to accomplish over the next year. We would like to see this spirit of influence be passed, but let me work with them over the next year. We'll give them a list of things, we'll work with them, and we'll give them a list of things that are impossible to accomplish, the things that they think they can accomplish. Bring it back to the LAFCo board, so you'll be able to see what those lists are, and we'll see. And if at the end of the year they can't do it, or they give them 18 months, whatever a reasonable period of time that we can all negotiate between the board and myself or us, and if they can, at the end of 18 months, if they're successful in meeting those benchmarks, then they're fine. But if they don't, then I think the county probably have to move to dissolve.
So that would be then an action that would be initiated by the county, actually, because we wouldn't be doing anything.
Well, that's true. I guess I'm not adding that to the agenda, to the motion. I'm just saying, pass the motion, and that's what the county will do.
Right. Any other discussion? No?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Just real quick again. Acquire more property reasons. What does it mean? What doesn't? Real quick.
Okay. Less than the county area and it wanted to annex territory, it could not annex territory. The sphere of influence does not impede any of the operations authorized under Harbors and Navigation Code of the district. If the district decides to buy a building, if the district decides to endeavor in any program that it already is authorized to provide and it's providing, the sphere of influence does not impede the district in any way, nor has it impeded any other district that did not seek annexation. Annexation is really the shiny object when it comes to a sphere of influence.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It is by resolution. Is that correct? We have a motion and a second. By resolution that the commission adopts the sphere of influence determinations set forth in Exhibit C and reaffirms the existing zero sphere of influence for the San Mateo County Harbor District. Shall we have the vote?
Commissioner Cosgrove?
Aye.
Commissioner Horsley?
Aye.
Commissioner Lohman?
Aye.
Commissioner TCA?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Neill?
Aye.
Chair Craig?
Aye.
just like one comment that I have to say that I have watched the new chair of the Harbor District, and I was impressed with really the business-like manner in which you've been running the board meetings. And I know you've gone to some of the cities, and I know you've obviously sat in some of our board meetings. So I really appreciate your attempt at working jointly with the county.
Thank you. We will move on